That's what I really am, and all I want to be. It may take some time, it may be hard to find, but see me beautiful.
He told us once that he chose people by the content of their heart. He was looking for trainers, not any other reason, not any other reason but their heart. And I was really honored because sometimes I can be quite grouchy or impatient. But yes, I think I have a heart. And this has been used with the family, with the people, with my clients, with friends. But it's Marshall who really brought it more alive, I would say.
When he was coaching people to use the 4 steps, that brought this special quality that NVC has, which is bringing us to connection with ourselves and with the other person. And I really want to underline here that he was never keen for us to learn the 4 steps. He many, many times was using various metaphors, what the 4 step had as a mean to reach the connection. He could talk about it as being a raft that would take you over the river, stormy river, to the other side of the riverbank, to the other riverbank, and that was the connection. Or he could use it saying it's a rail, it's a handrail that you hold on to reach the top, which again is connection. But we all know that as we practice the model, if we do that, we will get there sooner or later with help of empathy or just exchange with each other on that level. That's where the connection happens. His introduction was, well, I'm going to share with you how you can make your life miserable for yourself. That was his opening statement. And of course, he got everybody's attention. And then he kind of lined up all the jackal stuff that we all know about. And you could hear a needle fall in this room. And finally, there was a little voice in the back of the room who said, "Oh, now could you tell us what we are allowed to do?" And that opened up the whole thing, of course. And everybody was overexcited about that introduction. But you never know with him. You never know what was going to come out of his mouth the next. But he always seemed to land it somehow. He talked about labeling students, pupils, both what we call negative and positive labels, judging, analyzing, and then he kind of chewed on each piece here, gave examples that as a teacher you could easily identify yourself. And then he would move on to punishment. And then he would move into guilt tripping. And then he would come into the language about should and ought and must. And you could see how the audience kind of was getting more and more excited, and at the same time, this is an interpretation, of course, but at the same time, excited and also despair, because they could recognize themselves in each of these pieces that he was bringing up. And so he kind of set the stage for presenting, and now I'm going to share with you what you can do instead.
We were in a session with Marshall in a group in Annie Mueller's living room. And all of a sudden, Marshall said, "Does anybody notice Annie's dog?" She had a Swiss Shepherd. We're like, Marshall's talking about Annie's dog right now? And he said, "Notice, take a look. What's her need?" So we said, "Well, looks like she needs some love. She needs some attention. She needs some caring," because what she was doing was going from person to person. And he said, "Do you notice that when she goes to somebody and kind of nudges their hand and they take it away, that she doesn't fall apart? She doesn't say, 'Oh, I'm being rejected and nobody loves me.' What does she do? She just goes to the next person and nudges their hands until she finds somebody who suddenly decides to just pat her and feed that need of hers." And he called it dogging for your needs. So he wanted us to keep going. If one person doesn't feed a need of ours, to not give up.
And this dog would just keep putting her head under Marshall's hand, insisting on being petted. And he used that as a metaphor. He said, she eventually got what she needed, but do you think she would have got it if she barked and growled at me?
One of the things that I treasured about Marshall's work was his ability to role play, to really be in somebody's shoes in a way that was just there. It was just 100% the person. And so when this person came to this workshop, I don't know his name, but I'll just say he was a monk. He was a practicing monk. He came with all these issues from the past about sexual connection with his mother that was really stirring in him, and it just had never left him from the time he was young, even through years and years and years of therapy. So in this role play that Marshall was playing his mother as the person who did the deed of sexual acts with her son at that point. And so as he played his mother, he just was able to empathize with what it felt like for this monk as a child, being on the other end of that. And as in empathy, as we've learned that once you're filled up, then you have empathy to give to somebody else. So once Marshall playing this guy's mother was able to give him the empathy that he needed for the pain he experienced from the past, then the monk was able to also tune into the pain the mother had in what happened in their childhood. And it was about a 45-minute role play that was so incredibly intense and precious that when it was over, you could just see that everything about this monk's life was different after that experience. And he got up and he just sort of danced through the room and he said, "I feel so different. And I've been working on this for 40 years. And I'm a changed being." And I could feel it, and I can still feel it. It was amazing. So that's another piece of when I saw the power of NVC that I hadn't seen in other situations. It was life-changing.
I remember him, especially with when it was obviously a couple who has had a longer war period as a couple, and it was obviously a certain topic. Are you being surprised? It was money. And they had given up. So Marshall played the role of the wife and let the husband speak his frustration that he is being seen as less than generous, as continuously wanting to hold on to things, and doesn't care what happens with the others in the family. And it was an old issue. And he, as a woman, he actually sat on her seat. And he just listened to the man and gave empathy, verbal, and didn't speak about himself as a wife. And the husband was saying this and that and this and that. And Marshall said, I could see the woman in the made sort of, this Marshall was just completely on this man. And she said, well, you don't know him. You can be that. I can't do that. You don't know him. And he said, let me see what happens. I'm going to be your husband. And now you tell me your story. And you just wait. And so both were experiencing Marshall, how he was giving empathy. No question about what is going on in him. And the woman was kind of getting really softer and softer and started to cry. And the man said, well, that's what he said, well, that's what I told her before. And Marshall said, probably not. Probably not. And it came very clear that the both of them wanted to be right, which is the usual, the usual thing, isn't it? But this couple was so in the trenches. It needed somebody who saw the humanity of it. Finally, they heard each other. It needed a pair of Rosenberg ears. Rosenberg ears could word what was going on in the other person because he was really going there.
I want to live compassionately at each and every opportunity. I want to give away the love that's mine to give. I want to live compassionately.